Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, starring Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Stellan Skarsgård, Bill Nighy, Chow Yun-fat, Jeffrey Rush, and Jonathan Pryce, and directed by Gore Verbinski. And before I talk about this movie, I did see this in movie theaters at a Hollywood theater at the El Capitan Theater, which usually plays Disney, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and movies and Star Wars movies now. And it was a cool experience, and what I thought of the movie is for the show. So let's get into it. The first scene with the hanging of people made me realize, and this is the opening scene, that this is going to be the darkest of the Pirates franchise. Even the singing in that scene was rather strange. Like, you can't predict kind of strange at a point where it was just scary. The moment we get introduced to Chow Yun-fat's character, Captain Sao Fang, he's kind of a creepy character to begin with. Sao Fang's front bodyguard is also kind of creepy as well, because he asks Elizabeth Swann to not just remove her weapons, but her clothes. And luckily we don't see any nudity because it's a Disney film. Same with the two pirates. Same with the two pirates that from the first two movies. The one with the eye problem, and the other one with the bald fat guy like myself. Except I'm not bald, but anyways, point is, looking at Elizabeth, where from Underground, like, she's standing and then they're like right there looking. So, and again, good thing they didn't go too far at this point. Marty, aka the little person shooting the big gun and he falls backwards, made me chuckle pretty much. So did Monkey Jack shooting a firework in between Barbossa and the guy he sword fights with. The next thing you know, Barbossa says, "Thank you, Jack!" And Cotton's parrot says the same thing. Thank you, Jack! Frozen Monkey Jack is a funny moment in the film and at the same time that it was like, aww, because he's freezing his booty off. They finally explained how they resurrected Barbossa and Jack Sparrow, which I was thankful for. So here comes the reason. So Tia Dalma, played by Naomi Harris, says Barbossa was only dead and she resurrected him like Jesus would, whereas Jack Sparrow was eaten by the Kraken and taken to Davy Jones' locker in a way that's very confusing, especially how they even got into Davy Jones' locker in the first place. And are they still in there at this point? That's my question for the day. Davy Jones, being played by Bill Nighy, was a badass last week and scary. And here, he's just too weak. He's just a weakling of a character, because Lord Cutler Beckett threatens to command his crew and him as well, or else his heart will, which we briefly saw in the last movie, will be shot by Lord Beckett and his crew. Painfully stupid, by the way, because how could you command the captain on their ship, or else they blow up their hearts? That doesn't make any sense. They're pirates. Barbossa going through a waterfall while I'm sitting here thinking, are you nuts? I think he's nuts, Barbossa is, but who am I to judge? I do like when, after they fall, we fade to black, we hear some stuff from the ride at Disneyland, for example. And Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow shows up 2 minutes after the 30-minute mark, and it looks like he's daydreaming with his crew, and that looks like him. I like the one where Jack acts like a chicken. What's a problem is that he talks to himself like he's homeless and tastes a rock when it turns out to be a crab. Just so ridiculously dumb. Jack's introduction music, or entry music I should call it, from the first two movies, ends up playing at the 40-minute mark. Why? Just do it when we're introduced to him, not 8 minutes after we're introduced to him. After Jack gets rescued from the locker, it feels like Will and Elizabeth were upset with each other for reasons and hated each other in the middle. And I guess it's probably because of how it last time ended with Elizabeth and Jack Sparrow kissing to death. And that was a problem. I thought they were in love until they found out they were cheating on each other or something. Jonathan Pryce's character, Governor Weatherby Swan, gets the short shaft in this movie. It's a shame that he doesn't live at the end of this movie. Jack flipping the ship upside down is a very odd scene. Like they were going to be blind. It's never explained, especially the map that turns from different directions. Way too dumb. Jack Sparrow has gone from funny to kind of strange funny, including when he's done talking to Cutler Beckett, which is a bad scene between Jack and Beckett. But it was funny because I love when Jack fires the cannon and lands on the good guy ship and says, "And that was even without a single drop of rum." That was the second place funny, whereas the first place funny was Jack as a chicken. Sao Feng wanted revenge on Jack because Jack paid Sao Feng with great insult, I guess I'll call it in the movie. But because I can't understand a thing that he said in the scene, what's he... Anyways. But Jack pays him with that and wants to send them back to the land of the dead. When they come across each other, he doesn't succeed because he wants to take him to Lord Beckett. Lord Beckett is a very hateful character because he's a bastard, which I guess at this point I personally don't think the guy that plays Beckett is a very good actor because he sounds even like a bastard on the bloopers. I don't like Sao Feng because he's a little too underdeveloped in my opinion. And to say that he's menacing is barely in this movie. He's mostly in 3 overlong scenes. One at the beginning when we're introduced to him. One when he gets revenge with Jack. And one is with his death by Davy Jones on his own ship while meeting with Elizabeth and making her captain. Which is a very questionable scene because she's not a pirate. Even on his dying wish, Stellan Skarsgård's character, Bootstrap Bill Turner, is a very stupid character because he forgets the conversation he has with Elizabeth 30 seconds later. It's painful. Then later in the film, he forgets whose side he's on. Horrible. Jack keeps betraying Will and Elizabeth's trust to the point that they should have avoided Will and Elizabeth being in the sequels in the first place. Tia Dalma, as Davy Jones' lover in the past, named Calypso, I'm thinking is the name, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a very strange move for the movie. Why do that? It's a very poor choice of the storytelling, and it raises more questions than it answers. The Pirate Lord meeting, again, is just a bad scene. Just really bad. It's irritating, like, because they argue and they yell and they fist fight. Ugh, really bad scene. Cut that scene out of the movie. Although, I will give it this. I do like the entrance of Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones as Captain Teague, a.k.a. the father of Captain Jack. I also heard in the new movie they're putting Paul McCartney as a pirate in the new movie. Oh, boy. Keith Richards is in this movie, and then he'll return in the next movie, and then in the new movie, Paul McCartney again will be in the movie. We'll see. I'm not sure. I hate the scene with Tia Dalma, or known as Calypso at this point, and Davy Jones. Again, cut that scene out. Jack's vision with 2 other Jack Sparrows, plus the brain where he scratches his brain with his fingers. That was gross, honestly. Calypso the giant is strange because she turns giant and yells and explodes into crabs, and then she becomes the storm. Very strange moment of the film. Elizabeth thinks her speech to the pirates before the final battle is a good, powerful speech, when really it's just pretentious. The fight goes on for 30 minutes of sword choreography. It's very tiring for this movie, which is a little too long. It's really long, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. At one point in the middle of the fight scene, at the end, there's a very questionable moment where Will and Elizabeth get married while all this fighting is going on. It is ridiculously stupid. Then Davy Jones gets distracted when Jack gets to distract the 2 bodyguards from the first movie, being dumb enough that Jack takes the chest with the heart in it, and suddenly Davy Jones calls him a lost bird that never learned to fly. Is a very dumb move for this movie. Will dying in this movie, on the other hand, I would have accepted that. It would have been an acceptable moment. But nope, Jack had to make Will stab the heart with the knife at the end of the movie, too eye-rolling. Even Scarlett and Giselle's the two strippers from the first movie. They're surprisingly they're in the second movie as well. Is also really eye rolling. Ugh. And anyways, do you really need them in this movie? Really? Even though Jack's stealing the map while Barbossa steals the ship with the and Jack steals the turntable map of the Fountain of Youth, was actually pretty funny to me, and they'll explain more about that in the next movie. I like the end credits music. It's very catchy. The after credits scene, though, where 10 years later Will and Elizabeth have a kid in the new movie, who might be in the new movie for reasons I'll explain when I get to the new film, on how they might have been spoiling this for me. In 2 weeks, I'll explain it then. Now it's time to rate this movie. I'd give this movie a 5.8 out of 10. It's too confusing and a problematic film, and it's also way too long at 2 hours and 49 minutes. Cut out 25 to 30 minutes of the film, otherwise it's just an okay movie. And I'll be back next week for On Stranger Times. Till next time, drink up me hearties, yo ho!